Continuous conversation at the highest levels of tennis, like all sports, of where it evolves to, staying ahead of the pack to attract new audiences whilst keeping hold of the traditions. We've seen Tennis Australia launch fast-forward tennis the last few years. We've seen the introduction to tie-break tens, a concept that has also been put forward is 30-30 tennis. Its founder, Mark Milne, joins us all the way from his native Scotland tonight. Mark, great to have you on the First Serve.
Hi, hello there, Brett. Yes, good to hear from you. Yes, thanks for inviting me to present 30-30 tennis. No, it's good.
Now, this has been talked about for sort of 2 or 3 years. I know you sort of got in touch with me. I had heard about it, but in a snapshot, can you tell us what 30-30 tennis is all about and how much traction you've been able to gain with the governing bodies at the top to take notice of it?
Yeah, okay, we'll do. Yeah, you're correct. It's about 2.5 to 3 years since I came up with the concept. It really is basically an alternative scoring method that produces shorter tennis matches to try and make them more exciting and more dynamic. And yeah, it's I've termed it 30-30 tennis. The clue is actually in the name. When you're playing 30-30 tennis, every game starts at 30 all. So instead of starting a game at love all, you start at 30 all. So you're right into the heat of the game, into the bigger point straight away. Now, when you write down 30 all as a 30-30, when you read that, it actually reads 30-30. So the format is called 30-30, and it's in a similar sort of way the 2020 cricket has been formatted. Yep. It's similar to 2020. The 2020 cricket's obviously big in Australia. It's a faster, more exciting format. So it seemed a logical thing to do to call the format that I'd created 30-30. And it's almost really as simple as that. Okay. The only other thing that I've tweaked is that the games obviously tick over a lot more quickly, so if you use the traditional change of ends after the first game and then after every second game played, the change of ends are too often and there's too many of them too quickly. So what I've decided to do is I've doubled it up. You actually play 2 games, then you change ends, and then you actually play 4 games before changing ends again, and so on. You continue to change after every 4 games. What this does is it cuts down the number of change of ends during a set. Yep. If you get a set, it would only have a maximum of 3 change of ends. So it seems to work quite well. You still serve alternatively, but yeah, it's after 2 and 4. So yeah,
Mark, can I ask you, Mark? In Australia, we've been used to fast 4, so we've got an introduction to that. We've sampled fast 4. What would be the difference? What can you explain as the difference?
Yeah, I think the main difference is the 30-30 format still retains the main traditions of tennis. I still like to see sets being played to 6 games, lead by 2, with a tie break at 6 all. Yep. That is important to me. Sets to 4 games just doesn't seem to sit quite right. I know they've been trialling it in the ATP Next Gen and so on, but sets to 4 games and with no ads also in Fast 4, I think the 30-30 still retains playing out the juice and ad points. I think that's a very important tradition of tennis as well. Okay. That is lacking with Fast 4. And finally, there's still a tie-break at 6 all. Rather than the Fast 4, yep, there's a tie-break at 3 all. It's retaining the traditions better than set to 4 games and so on. That's my gut feel. You'll still come off court having 1-6-3, 6-2, yep, rather than 4-1, 4-2 and so on.
Okay. Mark, totally understand that. So you pitched this to the ITF, I think it was a couple of years ago in Paris.
Correct.
They decided, yes, at the time we don't need another abbreviated version of the game, but I know you're going to persist. I know you've been contacting people in tennis all over the globe. There's so many testimonials on your website of people who've sampled it. The great Judy Murray, who I recently spoke to at Wimbledon from Dunblane, not too far away from where you reside, has also sort of adopted this in her coaching. Can you just give me, in about a minute, can you tell me where this is sort of all at currently?
Yeah, you're correct. I contacted the ITF as you can apply to amend the rules of tennis. It was then discussed at the Rules of Tennis Committee meeting in Paris in 2017. They knocked it back because they said they had already other alternative shortening methods. I said, okay, fair enough, but I think 30-30 tennis is better for the reason I've said. It retains the traditions. So what I did was I told them that I would go away and trial it all over the world, and I would reapply within a few years. That's where I am now. I've been trialling for about 18 months. The feedback has been really very, very good. Youngsters especially seem to be enjoying the faster format. And the main thing is it still feels, looks and sounds like traditional tennis. So I'm building my case using the feedback I've been receiving. And I've been speaking from people right up to the very top of tennis, right down to the coaches and so on sort of stuff. So it's been very, very encouraging, and I'm convinced it works.
All right. We have run out of time on our show, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. 30 is in the spelt 30, and then the two numbers, 30tennis.com, is where people can log on to. I want to get some feedback on our Twitter, and we'll talk about this on the show in a bit more detail next week, Mark. We've got to fly, but I really appreciate you joining us from Scotland just to give us a little taste, and we'll do a little sample here on the first serve next week of people who have maybe shown some interest in 30-30 tennis. So really appreciate you joining us.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Brett. Very good.
Mark Milne, give us some feedback on our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 30-30 tennis. Have you actually sampled it?